The Chosen One. In the vast, silent expanse of the galaxy, humanity had always been regarded as a mere speck of dust, drifting aimlessly through the cosmos. The aliens who populated the stars saw themselves as the true rulers of the universe. Their civilizations advanced, their technologies mind-boggling, their knowledge far beyond anything Earth could offer. Humans, for all their brilliance and resilience, were often dismissed as too primitive, too young, too insignificant to matter in the grand tapestry of galactic history. But all of that was about to change. Dr. Eli Sutton, a human linguist, stood on the edge of an unimaginable discovery. He wasn't just any scholar. He was the one who had been called upon to solve a mystery that had baffled the most brilliant minds of the galaxy for centuries. An ancient alien artifact, found buried deep on the edge of known space, had contained markings, symbols, patterns, and language that none of the galaxy's oldest civilizations could decipher. For centuries, the artifact had remained dormant, a relic from a long-extinct precursor race, until now. The call had come from the Council of Sailor, a powerful alliance of alien species who ruled over vast swathes of space. They had sent their best scholars, their finest minds, to study the artifact, but none of them could crack the code. The symbols were unlike anything they had ever seen, a language so ancient it seemed to predate their own civilizations. For all their technology and knowledge, they had no idea what it meant. And then, they brought in Eli. The research station that Eli now stood in, light years away from Earth, was a sprawling complex of glass and metal, nestled within a dead star system. It was the kind of place where dreams of the stars and nightmares of ancient beings intertwined. The air hummed with the buzz of alien machinery, translating streams of data at incomprehensible speeds. But despite all the technology surrounding him, Eli felt strangely alone in the heart of the station. The walls, adorned with mysterious symbols from the long-gone race, seemed to whisper to him, beckoning him to uncover their secrets. Dr. Sutton, a voice called from behind him, snapping him from his reverie. It was Kira, the lead Silurian scientist, and the one who had personally requested him for the job. Tall and elegant with translucent blue skin that shimmered like the ocean, she regarded Eli with the awe that had become customary among the aliens when they spoke of humanity. "You've made remarkable progress," Kira continued, her voice echoing softly in the vast chamber. "The others, they are waiting for you." Eli nodded, his heart pounding with excitement. His work here had already led to astonishing breakthroughs, translations of alien languages that had been thought lost forever. But what lay before him now was something far more profound. These symbols weren't just a language. They were a key to something greater, something buried in the ancient past of the galaxy. The more Eli deciphered, the more he realized this wasn't just about understanding the past. It was about unlocking the future. Taking a deep breath, Eli approached the central terminal, where a holographic display flickered to life in front of him. It showed a series of symbols, twisting and turning in ways that defied explanation. As his fingers hovered over the console, the symbols shifted, almost as if recognizing his touch, reacting to his presence. The lines seemed to pulse with an energy of their own. "Dr. Sutton," Kira's voice broke his concentration again. This time, there was a note of caution in her tone. "We must be careful. These texts, they could be more than just language. They could be a weapon, a tool, or something far more dangerous." Eli turned to face her, the weight of her words sinking in. He had heard the rumors. Whispers of technology capable of reshaping entire planets, of controlling the very fabric of reality itself. But that didn't deter him. He had always been driven by curiosity, by the unquenchable thirst for knowledge. It was what had brought him here, and it was what would keep him going. With a final glance at Kira, Eli returned his focus to the symbols. The ancient language responded to him, pulling him deeper into its mysteries. As he began to translate, the words took shape in his mind, clear and haunting. "The key to the stars," he whispered to himself. "The chosen species. He felt a chill run down his spine. The more he translated, the more it became clear humanity wasn't just here by chance. The whispers, the markings, the symbols, they all pointed to one thing. Earth was the chosen species, and Eli Sutton, the human linguist, had become the key to unlocking the power of the ancient gods themselves. But who, or what, was watching him now? The whisperer's burden. The hum of the alien technology around him grew louder as Eli Sutton continued his work, translating the ancient precursor language. His fingers danced across the console, inputting symbols as they appeared on the holographic screen, each one more intricate and cryptic than the last. The symbols weren't just words, they were complex formulas, equations and blueprints for technology that defied comprehension. As each fragment fell into place, the puzzle of the long-dead race began to take shape in his mind. But the more he uncovered, the more the sense of foreboding grew. The Xilorians, though initially thrilled by his success, had begun to watch him more closely. Their expressions, once filled with awe, were now tinged with concern. Kira, who had once been his ally, now seemed distant, almost wary. Eli could feel the weight of her gaze on his back as he worked, but he didn't dare look up. His focus was locked on the symbols, on the whispers that now echoed in his mind. It was strange, this feeling, like a voice whispering in his ear, guiding him. The voice was not human, nor was it alien. It was ancient, something older than the stars themselves. At first, he had dismissed it as the product of his own mind, the strain of hours spent decoding alien text. But as the hours turned into days, the whispers became more distinct, more insistent. "Continue. You are the chosen one," the voice urged, its tone both soothing and commanding. "Unlock the secrets. Let the power flow." Eli shuddered. He had always prided himself on his ability to stay calm and collected, but something about the whispers unsettled him. There was a weight to them, an expectation that made his stomach churn. He wasn't just translating anymore. He was being guided. But by what? By whom? As he decoded the next string of symbols, the screen before him flickered, showing a blueprint for a device. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, sleek, metallic, and impossibly advanced. His heart raced as the image became clearer, a mechanical structure capable of harnessing unimaginable energy. The device was a weapon, but not like any weapon the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a bomb, or a laser, or a ship. It was a tool of creation, capable of altering the very fabric of reality. Eli's mind raced. He had heard stories, whispers of an ancient race, the precursors, who had created tools capable of shaping the universe itself. But the idea that such a device was now within his reach felt like a dream, or a nightmare. Was humanity truly ready for this kind of power? Could he even be trusted with it? "Dr. Sutton, you've done enough for today." Kira's voice broke into his thoughts, but there was something in her tone that made Eli pause. It wasn't concern, it was fear. She didn't want him to continue. "I'm not finished," Eli replied, his voice more steady than he felt. "There's more to this. I need to understand it all. There's something hidden here, Kira, something important." Kira stepped forward, her translucent blue skin shimmering in the dim light of the chamber. "Eli, I don't think you understand," she said softly, her voice tinged with urgency. "You're unlocking something that may be better left forgotten. These aren't just texts. They're instructions for a power that you cannot control." The room seemed to grow colder as Kira's words sank in. Eli turned to her, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. She was right. In a way, he had begun to unlock something beyond his understanding, something that felt far too dangerous for any species, let alone humanity. But there was also something inside him, a deep, undeniable pull, urging him to continue. This was his purpose, his calling. The whispers had chosen him for this. "I can't stop now," Eli said, more to himself than to Kira. This is what we've been waiting for. This is humanity's future." Kira took a step back, her eyes wide with worry. You're not just unlocking technology, Eli. You're tapping into something that could change the galaxy. Or destroy it. And you're not the only one who's been listening to the whispers. Eli's pulse quickened as the words struck him like a blow. What did she mean? Before he could respond, the door to the chamber slid open, and a group of Solarian officers entered, their faces grave. Eli recognized them, members of the Council of Sailor. Their presence wasn't just a formality, it was a warning. Dr. Sutton, one of the officers, an elder Solarian with shimmering violet skin, spoke. It's time we had a discussion about what you've uncovered. There are those among us who believe humanity's access to this knowledge must be controlled. You are a key to the future, but that future may not belong to you. It may belong to the galaxy. Eli felt a chill spread through him. He wasn't just translating ancient texts anymore. He was at the center of a struggle for power, one that could reshape the very foundation of the universe. And as the officers closed in, Eli realized the whispers weren't just trying to guide him. They were manipulating him, pushing him toward something he couldn't yet see. Was he truly the chosen one, or had he become a pawn in a game far larger than he could comprehend? As the officers surrounded him, Eli felt a surge of fear. The weight of the burden that had been placed upon him felt heavier than ever before. What had he uncovered? And more importantly, was he strong enough to control it before it controlled him? The whispers continued, growing louder in his mind. The key is in your hands. The galaxy will bend to your will. Lead them. Eli didn't know who or what was speaking to him, but he knew one thing for certain. He was no longer just a translator. He had become something far more dangerous. The fate of the galaxy was now in his hands. And there was no turning back. Secrets beneath the surface. Eli's mind was spinning as the officers closed in, their cold, calculating eyes trained on him like predators ready to strike. He could feel the pressure mounting in the room, the weight of their unspoken thoughts pressing down on him. He had become a pawn, an object of immense value, a key to the most dangerous secrets of the galaxy. The whispers, still echoing in the back of his mind, urged him forward, pushing him to keep unlocking the precursor's technology. But doubt had started to creep in, like a shadow he couldn't escape. The Solarian officer who had spoken, Elder Kiros, stood before him now, his violet skin shimmering with an aura of authority that could not be denied. He was one of the Council's most respected leaders, his mind sharp and unyielding. Dr. Sutton, Kiros began, his voice even but laced with a sense of urgency. You are a brilliant scholar, but you have ventured into dangerous territory. The knowledge you've unlocked is not for you to wield. You may have been chosen to understand it, but that does not mean you are fit to control it. Eli swallowed, the words stinging his pride. He had worked his entire life to reach this point, to unlock the mysteries of the galaxy. Now, standing here in front of the very people who had once lauded his skills, it felt like they were closing in on him, not with admiration, but with fear. I don't want control, Kiros, Eli said, his voice trembling with the weight of the situation. I just want to understand. We can use this knowledge to help everyone, to change the galaxy. We've been given a chance that no one else has had in eons. Kiros shook his head, his expression unreadable. You are naive, Eli. The knowledge you seek will change the galaxy, but not in the way you think. These texts, they are not a gift. They are a warning, and what you unlock may lead to the destruction of everything you hold dear. Eli's chest tightened. He had heard the warnings before. The whispers had urged him on, promising power beyond imagination. But now, with Kiros standing before him, he couldn't shake the feeling that the Solarians were hiding something they weren't telling him. It was as if they knew more than they were letting on. What aren't you telling me? Eli asked, his voice barely above a whisper. What is it you're so afraid of? Kiros' eyes flickered for a moment, the briefest of hesitations that spoke volumes. Then, as if making a decision, he took a step forward, lowering his voice so only Eli could hear. "There are forces at play, Dr. Sutton, that even the Council fears. We have long known of the precursor race, their power, and the devastation they left behind. But there is more to their legacy than just technology. There is a secret they left buried, one that has the potential to unravel the very fabric of reality." Eli's heart skipped a beat. What secret? Before Kairos could respond, the doors to the chamber slid open with a soft hiss, and a tall, imposing figure stepped inside. An ambassador from the Scar Dominion, one of the most powerful and ruthless factions in the galaxy. He was flanked by 2 armed guards, his crimson armor gleaming ominously in the dim light of the room. "Forgive my intrusion," the ambassador said smoothly, his voice like silk, "but I believe we need to discuss the human." Translator's progress. His gaze shifted to Eli, cold and calculating. "It seems the whispers have already begun, haven't they, Dr. Sutton?" Eli recoiled inwardly at the mention of the whispers, his every instinct screaming that this was no coincidence. The Scar Dominion had long been known for their pursuit of power at any cost, their hunger for control and domination unrelenting. Eli had heard rumors about their interest in the precursor technology, and now it seemed they were very much aware of the importance of his translations. "What do you want?" Eli asked, his voice hardening as the reality of his situation set in. "This is about more than just a language now, isn't it?" The ambassador smiled, his sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. "You're more astute than I expected, human. But yes, you are correct. It is about much more than language. The precursor race left behind more than just machines. They left behind knowledge. Powerful, unimaginable power. And that power could belong to the Scar Dominion, or to anyone who dares to unlock it." Eli felt a chill run down his spine. He wasn't just a scholar anymore. He was a pawn in a game much larger than he had ever anticipated. The Scar Dominion, with its vast military might and ruthless tactics, wasn't just interested in preserving the secrets of the past. They wanted to use it, to control it. And if they could control the power of the ancients, the entire galaxy would fall under their shadow. But Eli was no longer willing to play by their rules. He had always been driven by his thirst for knowledge, but now, with the weight of the whispers pressing down on him, he realized something crucial. He was not just the chosen one to understand the language of the ancients. He was the key to unlocking their greatest secret, and in doing so, he had become a target. "How do you intend to stop me?" Eli challenged, his voice steady despite the rising tide of fear inside him. The ambassador's smile only widened. "I don't need to stop you, Dr. Sutton. I need you to lead me to the source of their power. You may have deciphered their language, but the true power lies in what you're yet to understand." Eli's hands clenched at his sides. The stakes had just become far higher than he could have imagined. This was no longer just a scientific discovery. It was a war for control of the galaxy, and he, the simple linguist, was caught in the center of it all. The whispers in his mind grew louder, now a constant hum in his ears. Unlock the power. Lead them all. He didn't know whether he was being manipulated by the whispers or by the galaxy's most powerful factions. But he knew one thing for certain. He had to make a choice that would not only decide his future, but the future of every living being in the galaxy. As the ambassador's cold gaze locked with his, Eli felt the weight of the universe on his shoulders. And the whispers wouldn't let him turn back now. The Shattered Alliance. The days following the Scar Dominion ambassador's visit felt like an endless haze of tension and paranoia. Eli had become more than just a scholar or a translator. He had become a symbol of power, a coveted piece in a galactic game of chess that threatened to shatter everything he knew. The whispers in his mind had only grown stronger, their commands more urgent. They called him to unlock more, to discover the true nature of the ancient power that lay just beyond his reach. But with every piece of the puzzle he uncovered, Eli couldn't shake the feeling that the whispers weren't guiding him toward something noble. They were leading him into a trap. Kira, once his closest ally, had grown distant. She watched him with wary eyes, her concern evident in every word she spoke. Even the Solarian Council, who had initially hailed him as a hero, now treated him like a dangerous weapon. He wasn't just translating ancient symbols anymore. He was revealing something that could alter the very fabric of the galaxy. The tension in the research station reached a boiling point one fateful evening. Eli had spent hours locked in his study, translating the last set of symbols from the precursor texts. The screen in front of him flickered with images of strange, impossible machines, devices that could manipulate time, space, and reality itself. He could feel the weight of the knowledge pressing down on him, and yet the whispers kept urging him forward. Suddenly, the door to his chamber slammed open, and Kira stepped inside, her face pale and drawn. "Eli," she said urgently, her voice trembling, "you have to stop. The Council, they're no longer on our side." Eli's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "Kira, I'm this close. I just need to unlock one more piece." "No," Kira interrupted, her voice sharp. "The Xalorians aren't the ones who called you here to uncover these secrets. They'd been using you all along. The Council, they fear what you're doing. They think you've uncovered something too dangerous to allow." Eli stared at her, disbelief and confusion flooding his thoughts. "But Kira, they'd been watching you." "Eli," Kira continued, her voice low and urgent, "and now they want to control you. There's a faction within the Council who believes you're too valuable to let go of. They think the knowledge you're unlocking should be theirs to control. They're not interested in the future of the galaxy. They want power. They want to use what you've unlocked to become the supreme rulers of the universe." Eli felt his breath catch in his throat. The weight of Kira's words settled heavily on his chest. He had known something was off, but hearing it from her, the one person he had trusted, was a betrayal that shook him to his core. For the first time, he wondered if he had made a mistake. Had the whispers truly chosen him, or had they simply manipulated him for their own purposes? Before Eli could respond, the door to the chamber slid open once more, this time with the unmistakable sound of boots marching in unison. A group of Solarian soldiers entered, their weapons raised and their expressions cold. At the front of the group stood Elder Kiros, his face a mask of authority and resolve. "Eli Sutton," Kiros said, his voice commanding, "you are to come with us. The Council has decided that your work is too dangerous to continue. You have exceeded the bounds of your purpose." Eli stood frozen, his heart pounding in his chest. The whispers were louder now, drowning out everything else. "This is your destiny. You are the key. You cannot stop now." He felt a cold sweat break out across his skin as he faced the soldiers. The chamber, once a sanctuary for his work, now felt like a prison. He had thought that unlocking the secrets of the ancients would be his greatest achievement, but now it seemed as though it had been his undoing. The knowledge he had uncovered was a weapon, and the galaxy was not ready for it. "I'm not going anywhere," Eli said, his voice shaking with a mixture of fear and defiance. "You can't stop me." Kiros raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. "You misunderstand, Dr. Sutton. This is not a request. You have become a threat to the stability of the galaxy. If you refuse to comply, we will take you by force." Eli's mind raced. He had no idea what the Council was capable of, but the sense of betrayal gnawing at him made it clear that they were not playing by the same rules he had believed in. He wasn't just a scholar anymore. He had become a pawn in a game far larger than he had ever realized. As the soldiers stepped forward, ready to seize him, Eli did the only thing he could think to do. His hands moved rapidly across the console in front of him, his mind barely registering the symbols he was inputting. The whispers in his mind urged him on, guiding his fingers to the sequence he needed. He didn't know what would happen, but something inside him told him it was the only way to survive. A bright light exploded from the console, blinding everyone in the room. The Xalorian soldiers recoiled, shielding their eyes from the intense glow. Eli felt a surge of energy coursed through him, the power of the precursor race flowing through his body. The symbols he had translated became more than just text. They became a living, breathing force that surrounded him. With a sudden motion, the light flared, and the soldiers were thrown back, their weapons flying from their hands as the force field Eli had activated created a barrier around him. The room was silent except for the crackling of energy in the air. Eli stood at the center, his heart racing, his breath shallow. He had never felt anything like this before. The power of the precursor race was no longer just a concept. It was a tangible force, one that he could control. Kairos staggered to his feet, his eyes wide with shock. "What have you done, Eli? You have no idea what you've unleashed." But Eli didn't hear him. The whispers had gone silent. In their place, a new voice filled his mind, a voice that was calm, clear, and unyielding. "You are the chosen one, Eli Sutton. You are the key to the future of the galaxy. But the choice is yours. Lead them or let them fall." The words echoed through his mind, and for the first time, Eli understood the true weight of what he had uncovered. The whispers had not just led him here. They had made him the instrument of the galaxy's fate. The power of the ancients was in his hands. And now, the galaxy would have to choose whether they would accept him as their leader, or whether they would rise up against him. But no matter what came next, Eli knew one thing for certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. The ascendant path. Eli stood at the center of the glowing force field, his heart pounding as the room buzzed with energy. The Xelorian soldiers had retreated, and the chamber was filled with a tense silence, the air heavy with the weight of the power he had just unleashed. For the first time in his life, Eli felt truly in control, as though the universe had bent to his will. The whispers, now silenced for a moment, returned. But they were different, calmer, more reassuring. "You have done well, Eli Sutton. The path is now clear. Lead them to their destiny. Show them the power you possess." Eli's breath hitched as the voice echoed in his mind. The whispers were no longer the chaotic murmurs they had been before. They were now guiding him with an unnerving certainty. He could feel the raw energy flowing through him, the knowledge of the ancient precursor race at his fingertips, ready to be wielded. It was as though a part of him had awakened, something deeper than the scholar he had once been. "Dr. Sutton." Kairos' voice broke through the silence, shaky but commanding. "What have you done? You have activated the precursor's core technology. Do you have any idea what you've just unleashed?" Eli turned slowly to face the elder Xelorian, the anger and betrayal he felt still fresh. "What I've unleashed is the future," Eli replied, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "This technology isn't just for one species, Kairos. It's for all of us. But the choice is yours. Will you stand with me, or will you try to stop me like everyone else?" Kairos' face twisted in disbelief. "You don't understand, Dr. Sutton. The power you're holding is beyond anything the galaxy has ever seen. The precursors weren't just creators. They were destroyers. They didn't leave this power behind to be wielded. It was locked away for a reason." Eli shook his head, the weight of Kairos' words sinking in. But the whispers told him otherwise. "They feared the power, but you will use it to build, to shape a new future. This power is yours to command. You are the key to the galaxy's salvation." The voice echoed in his mind with such intensity that he had to close his eyes for a moment to steady himself. He wasn't sure who or what was speaking to him now. Was it the precursors, or had the power he'd unlocked begun to overtake him? Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps shattered the tension. Eli turned toward the door, his mind still reeling. More Xelorian officers entered, led by a figure that made his blood run cold, the Scar Dominion ambassador, the one who had watched him so closely when he first began translating the precursor texts. The ambassador's crimson armor gleamed under the chamber's lights, his expression unreadable. "Dr. Sutton," he said, his voice smooth, but with a sharp edge. I see you've made your choice. You've chosen to tap into the precursor's power. But I fear you are not the only one who wants it. Eli's gaze hardened. You don't want the power. You want control. And you won't get it. The ambassador smiled, his sharp teeth visible. You misunderstand, human. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to make sure that the power you've unlocked does not fall into the wrong hands. And if that means taking it by force, so be it. As he spoke, the Sker soldiers positioned themselves around the room, their weapons drawn and ready. Eli's heart raced, but the power thrumming inside him felt almost comforting now. He had access to something they couldn't even begin to understand. They would have to kill him to take it. And even then, they might fail. Don't resist, the whispers urged him, their voice calm and persuasive. Embrace the power. They will fall before you. Eli stood tall, the force field around him flickering as he gathered the energy in his mind, ready to defend himself. But as the ambassador and his soldiers approached, Eli hesitated. A part of him wanted to take the power, to show them all what he could do. But another part of him, something deep inside, knew he was at a crossroads. This wasn't just about controlling the power. It was about understanding it. And if he didn't make the right choice, the consequences could be catastrophic. Leave now, Eli said, his voice more commanding than he'd ever intended. I'm not your weapon. I will not be controlled by fear or greed, and I will not hand over this power to anyone, least of all you. The ambassador's smile faded, replaced by a cold sneer. Then you leave us no choice, he said. With a sharp motion, he signaled to his soldiers, and they advanced on Eli, their weapons raised. But before they could reach him, a pulse of energy shot out from Eli, a wave of raw power that sent them all staggering back. The room crackled with energy, and the soldiers, caught off guard by the surge, were thrown back against the walls. Eli felt the immense power surge through him, an uncontrollable force that was both exhilarating and terrifying. He had only begun to understand the true scope of what the precursors had left behind. The ambassador, unshaken but clearly frustrated, raised his hand, signaling for his soldiers to retreat. You are more powerful than I imagined, Eli Sutton. But power alone will not protect you. There are others out there who will come for you, and for this knowledge. Eli met his gaze, steady and unflinching. Let them come, he said. This power isn't for them. It's for humanity, and I will protect it with everything I have. As the Sker soldiers retreated, and the ambassador's footsteps echoed in the distance, Eli stood alone in the chamber, the weight of the power he had just tapped into pressing down on him. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The galaxy was on the verge of change, and Eli Sutton was at the center of it all. The whispers had chosen him, but it was up to him to decide what he would do with the power they had bestowed upon him. The ascendant path had opened before him, and the galaxy's future now lay in his hands. The final translation. Eli stood alone in the heart of the research station, surrounded by the remnants of the power he had unleashed. The Excelorian officers, the Scar Dominion, and even Kira had all retreated, leaving him in the silence of his own thoughts. The force field he had summoned dissipated slowly, the energy fading away as the weight of what he had just done settled over him. His mind was racing, full of questions and doubts, but above all, the overwhelming sense of urgency that the whispers now commanded. The ancient precursor language lay before him on the console, the final set of symbols still incomplete. He had reached the last leg of the journey, the final translation that could unlock everything. The ultimate secret, the ultimate weapon. The whispers in his mind were louder than ever, their voices urging him to push forward. Finish it. You are the key to the galaxy's future. Complete the translation, and all will be revealed. But Eli hesitated. The power that coursed through him now was unlike anything he had ever imagined, and with it came a responsibility that seemed too great for any one person to bear. He had started this journey seeking knowledge, but now it felt as though the knowledge had claimed him. It wasn't just a matter of understanding anymore. It was a matter of deciding the fate of the galaxy. What had the precursors intended with this knowledge? Were they truly benevolent, or had they created something so powerful that it could only bring destruction? And what of the other factions, those who would do anything to control the power Eli now held? The Scar Dominion, the Xalorian Council, and others. They all saw him as the key to the future, but none of them understood the true cost of wielding such power. Eli's eyes drifted back to the holographic screen. The final symbols had begun to shift before him, responding to his presence, almost as if they were alive. He reached out, his fingers brushing across the console, and the symbols glowed with an eerie light. The whispers were relentless now, demanding that he continue. Complete the final translation, Eli murmured to himself. I need to understand. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming a new pattern that sent a shock through his entire body. The image on the screen showed a map, an intricate, impossible map of the galaxy, with countless interconnected points, each glowing with an energy that made his skin tingle. In the center of it all was a planet, a massive ancient world that pulsed with an unnatural light. This is it, Eli breathed, his voice barely audible as he understood the full scope of what he was seeing. The heart of the precursor race, and the key to everything. The whispers in his mind grew deafening. But this time, they didn't seem to come from the precursors alone. They were layered, overlapping, as if multiple voices were speaking at once. And then, amidst the chaos, one voice rose above the rest, a voice that seemed familiar, even though Eli had never heard it before. You've unlocked the final truth, Eli. But now you must choose. Will you wield the power, or will you destroy it? Eli's hands trembled as he stared at the screen, the image of the ancient planet before him. He could feel the power of the precursor race at his fingertips, a power so vast and dangerous that it could either save or destroy everything. The map had shown him the way. This planet, this heart of the precursors, was where the ultimate power lay hidden, and he was the one chosen to unlock it. The choice was clear, but it was more complicated than Eli had ever imagined. The power to reshape the galaxy, to bend it to his will, was within his grasp. But at what cost? Could he trust himself not to be corrupted by such power? Could humanity, or would the galaxy fall into chaos, consumed by the very technology that had once been created to protect it? The whispers were growing more insistent now, pushing him toward the final decision. The power is yours. Use it. You can control the galaxy. You will rule as the chosen one, the one who will bring order to the chaos. But something inside Eli shifted. The voice of the precursors, once so commanding and persuasive, now felt distant, almost hollow. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that this was not just about power. It was about something deeper, something he had never truly considered. What if we are not meant to rule? Eli thought. What if the real purpose is to guide the galaxy toward balance, to use this knowledge for something greater than control? The thought hit him like a wave. Perhaps the power of the precursors had not been meant to be wielded by a single individual, or even a single species. Perhaps it was meant to be shared, to bring unity rather than division. Eli had unlocked the secrets of the past, but that didn't mean he had to follow the path they had set. He could choose a different path, one that was his own. His fingers hovered over the console, and for a moment, the weight of the decision threatened to crush him. He could feel the power surging through him, the temptation to take control, to make himself the ruler of the galaxy, so strong that it almost felt like a physical force. But Eli had always believed in something greater than power. He believed in knowledge, in discovery, and in the potential for humanity to rise above the mistakes of the past. With a deep breath, Eli made his decision. I won't use the power, he said softly, as if speaking to the empty chamber. I'll destroy it. The galaxy doesn't need another tyrant. It needs a new way forward. And with that, Eli reached for the final symbol on the screen, the one that would deactivate the precursor's core technology, the key to the galaxy's future. His hand hovered for a moment, and then he pressed it. The room was filled with a brilliant flash of light. The sound of the light fading away was the only thing Eli could hear now, as the power within him began to recede. The whispers, once so loud and insistent, had disappeared. The overwhelming weight that had pressed down on him for so long had lifted. Eli felt a strange sense of relief. The galaxy would not be ruled by power. It would not be shaped by one individual's will. It would be shaped by the choices of those who truly understood the cost of power, who chose to guide, not dominate. And Eli Sutton, the human who had been chosen, had just made that choice. The human whisperer's legacy. The room was still, save for the soft hum of machinery that had been working tirelessly for months, now slowing down as the last echoes of the ancient power dissipated. Eli stood alone in the center of the chamber, the console before him now silent, its once glowing symbols faded into nothingness. The energy that had surged through him, the whispers that had guided him, had all but vanished. But there was no feeling of emptiness, no sorrow at what he had given up. Instead, there was a profound sense of peace, a knowledge that he had made the right choice. The galaxy would not be ruled by power, not by him, not by anyone. The Scar Dominion had been a threat, the Xalorian Council had been cautious, and even Kira had feared what he might become. But Eli had chosen the path of wisdom, the path of humility, and with it, he had rejected the temptation of control. The precursor race had left behind more than just technology. They had left behind a lesson, a warning, and a promise. That true power was not in dominion over others, but in the ability to understand, to shape, and to guide without ever forcing one's will upon the galaxy. As he stepped away from the console, Eli allowed himself a moment of reflection. He thought of Earth, of humanity, and what they had the potential to become. The secrets of the ancients had opened doors, but it was up to humanity to decide what to do with them. Eli knew that he couldn't carry the burden of this knowledge alone. It had to be shared. It had to be understood by all, not just by those who sought power. He turned toward the door, his mind made up. There would be no return to the research station for him. The galaxy needed a new beginning, and he was no longer a part of the old, worn path. Eli would take the knowledge of the ancients, but he would leave behind the legacy of a single individual's reign. He would seek the truth not just for himself, but for all those who had the courage to look beyond their own desires and fears. As Eli stepped out of the chamber, he found Kira waiting for him, her expression unreadable, but her eyes filled with something that looked like hope. She had seen the power that he now carried, and she had seen the way it had nearly consumed him. Yet here he was, walking away from it, choosing to destroy the very thing that others had craved. "You did it," Kira said softly. "You chose to destroy it all." Eli nodded, his gaze steady. "The galaxy doesn't need another god, Kira. It needs something greater. A future shaped by those who understand that power, true power, is not in ruling, but in guiding." Kira didn't speak, but there was a look of respect in her eyes. She had feared the worst, but Eli had shown her a different way. He had chosen not to wield the power of the ancients, but to leave it behind, untouched and unclaimed. The galaxy, with all its complexities and uncertainties, would move forward, on its own terms, shaped by the choices of all its inhabitants. As Eli looked out across the horizon, the weight of the galaxy's future no longer felt like a burden. He had chosen the path of wisdom, not domination. He had rejected the temptation to reshape the galaxy according to his will. The future would be shaped by the countless voices of the galaxy, working together, not as rulers, but as equals. The whispers, once so powerful, now seemed like a distant memory, a passing dream. Eli Sutton, the human who had unlocked the secrets of the ancients, had left behind a legacy of humility and choice. The galaxy was no longer bound by the will of one person. It was free to chart its own course. As the sun set on the distant horizon, Eli knew that his journey was only just beginning. The story of humanity, of the galaxy, was far from over. But now it was theirs to write. The whispers were silent now, But in their place, there was something far more powerful: hope.